Good evening. Welcome, candidates, those here in the audience, and those watching on live stream. The League of Women Voters of Johnson County is pleased to be co-sponsoring this forum with the district-wide parent organization, DPO. Co-President Kelly Jackson Amato, we thank you for representing the DPO and working with us. And thanks to the entire DPO Executive Board for assistance in preparing for this evening. Please stand if you are a member of the DPO and are here with us tonight. It's okay. I'm Jean Donham, a member of the League of Women Voters of Johnson County, and I will be the moderator for the forum. The League of Women Voters is a volunteer, nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes any party or candidate. And this is why we have the policy that campaign literature is welcome outside of this room following the forum, and no buttons, signs, or literature can be worn or distributed inside this room. As a courtesy to all, please take a moment now to silence your cell phones. We ask that no questions or outbursts come directly from the audience, and please hold any applause until the end of the forum. The League supports the free and open exchange of ideas through civil discourse. The League does take positions after considerable study on selected issues and acts to influence decision makers on those issues. We work to not only register voters, but also to provide them with information on issues to assist their participation in government. Membership in the League is open to anyone 16 years of age and older. Join us. We can use your time, your talent, and your financial resources. League members advocate and inform voters. Democracy works best when more people are involved. Membership forms are available at our welcome table near the entrance, or find us at www.lwvjc.org. The views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates. All candidates have been invited to participate. The format for this evening is as follows. After candidates have been introduced, each of you will have 2 minutes for opening remarks. We will then present questions. Our first 2 questions come from the DPO and the League, followed by ones submitted on cards by the audience. League members are distributing cards and pencils for you to write questions on. You may submit as many written questions for the candidates as you wish. Hold up the cards and a League member will collect them throughout the forum and bring them up here. Questions that fall in the same general category may be consolidated in the interest of time. If time does not allow for all questions to be addressed, and that is quite possible, you may contact the candidates directly after the forum or at another time. Each question will be asked of all candidates. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. There will be no time for rebuttals. We are scheduled for 90 minutes. Near the end of our scheduled time for this event, each candidate will have 2 minutes for closing remarks. The speaking order will be rotated throughout the forum. A League member, Susie Corbin-Muir, is our timekeeper, using cards to alert candidates when time is about up and when it is up. The election is scheduled for November 7th. Early voting for the November 7th, 2023 city and school election began today and is available 8 to 5 weekdays at the auditor's office. Check the auditor's website for satellite voting schedules. There are 7 candidates running for 4 seats on the Iowa City Community School District School Board. Our candidates are, starting from this end, Molly Abraham, Micah Broekemeier, Robert Decker, Charlie Eastham, Mitch Lingo, Jacob Onken, who is not present this evening, and Lisa Williams, who is present via Zoom. So let's begin with opening statements from the candidates for the 4 school board seats. Ms. Abraham, thank you.
Well, first, thank you to the League of Women Voters and the DPO for hosting this forum. It's very important for candidates to be informed, for voters to be informed about the candidates, and this is a great way to make that happen. On a side note, I have been to and watched some of these forums over the years and never dreamed that I would actually be in one, but here I am, and I'm honored to be here. I've lived in Iowa City for about 45 years. I came here to go to college and stayed, as many of us do. I retired in June of 2022 from West High School after working there for 38 years. The first 18 years I was a special ed teacher, and the next 20 I was assistant principal. My husband, Dave Walls, and I raised our 3 adult daughters here in Iowa City. They went through the school system. They're proud West High graduates and really benefited from the education they received here. I was appointed to the board in September of 2022 to fill out the term of Sean Eastham, who had to resign early. And so, having been on the board for just over a year, I have learned so much. And I see that it is a great way for me to continue my support and advocacy for public education and ICCSD. If I'm lucky enough to be elected on November 7th, a few of my priorities: continue our work on equity and access for all students to quality education, to retention and recruitment of diverse and high-quality staff, continued commitment to supports and services provided to our students with IEPs and 504 plans, and realization of dynamic new programming at the ICCSD Center for Innovation. I'm looking forward to answering questions tonight and hearing from the other candidates. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Broekemeier.
Hey there. I'd also like to thank the League of Women Voters, the DPO, all the other candidates, and all the lovely people that have come out tonight. My name is Micah Broekemeier. I'm a Marine veteran, a husband, and a father. And I'm a current master's student at the University of Iowa, working to become a teacher myself. Since living in Iowa City, I've fallen in love with the people, fallen in love with the places, and before even moving here, I had always heard about the great tradition of academic excellence that Iowa City has, not just in higher education, but in their public school system as well. One of the reasons I jumped in to get involved with the school board race was that I've basically just been talking to a lot of people in my community and hearing some maybe potential concerns that we can change and make the current school system even better. We do such a good job here, and there's always room for improvement. One thing that I really want to work on is trying to get back real-world learning, and this means shop classes, FFA, and continued support to non-college options for all of our young learners. Continue to focus on making family a priority, better communication with parents, families in general, and continue to make sure our schools are safe. In that regard, it means doing everything we can to make sure that when the parents drop their kids off at school, they know that nothing will happen to them, and if anything does, then they will immediately be notified. Again, we do such a great job here in the Iowa City Community School District. I just very much like to do what I can to improve on it any way I can. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Decker.
Hello, my name is Robert Decker. I'm a father of 4, an Army veteran, and a mental health worker. I got interested in running several years ago, but over the last 4, it's been amplified based on what's been happening in our school system the last few years that I think set our children back a little bit. I believe that all people have the ability and opportunity to advance in society and education given the right tools and encouragement and not victimization. And I hope that by getting on the board, there can be different voices and concerns brought forward that can help make better decisions in our school system and our education of our children. And that's really about it. Thank you all for coming out and hearing what we have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. And Mr. Eastham.
Hi, my name is Charlie Eastham. I'm a member of the board currently. I have served one term and am running for re-election for a second term. I grew up in a small town in Texas, the Texas Panhandle. I went to high school there. I went to junior college there and eventually left to go into the military. I served 4 years in the Navy as an air crewman on an anti-submarine squadron. I went to TCU, Texas Christian University, after I left the Navy to complete my undergraduate work. And after that, I went into the Peace Corps and served for a year and a half in the Federation of Malaysia as a Peace Corps volunteer before coming to Iowa to go to law school. I enjoyed my time in law school here, and it gave me the opportunity to learn that I was never going to be a lawyer, so I dropped out and pursued other things. I've worked mainly in healthcare research for my professional life. Since coming to the, since retiring, I have moved into a lot of community activities and community service. I've been a member of the Black Voices Project for a long time. I was part of the founding group for that organization. I've also been on the board of the Center for Worker Justice, and I'm also a member of the Johnson County Interfaith Coalition, and for a time I was president of the Consultation of Religious Communities. All of those activities gave me, and work gave me a clear insight into things that we need to do better as a community for all of the people and living in the community. And I decided to run for the school board to take a part in preparing for preparing the district to do better at educating kids of color and LGBTQ youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Eastham. And Mr. Lingo.
Hello, my name is Mitch Lingo. Thank you all for coming tonight, and the DPO and the League of Women Voters. My background is steeped in education. I taught, before moving to Iowa City, I taught for 6 years in a middle school in Omaha, Nebraska. I came here for a PhD in educational policy studies, and right now I work studying as a senior research scientist, studying post-secondary issues. My experience comes in handy when considering the barrage of new legislation and legislation that's being pushed across the United States right now. I've already been conversing with current administrators and board members regarding these ambiguities in the new laws and potential laws that are coming up in the future. As a board member, what I am advocating is for providing course offerings for students choosing different academic and career paths, whether that is an apprenticeship, seeking an apprenticeship in the trades, or seeking an elite university. We're here to teach all students. I'm here to support offering full-day preschool and wraparound childcare at different locations throughout the district. I'm here for maintaining clear and consistent dialogue about changes, whether to policy or to curriculum throughout the district. I am also here for exploring how the district's diversity, equity, inclusion program can be used to enhance learning for all students. My wife, Ellie, is a graduate of Iowa City Community Schools. We have 2 daughters and one expected in December. We plan on putting them in Longfellow Elementary in due course. The first one will start next fall. I look at this as an opportunity to serve on the school board, as an opportunity to invest in every Iowa City Community School District student's future. As a board member, I will commit my time and professional expertise in making this district the top choice in the community for schools.
Thank you. And Ms. Williams.
Thank you. Thank you to the League. I want to start by apologizing for not being there in person. Unfortunately, I had a work commitment, and I'm joining you from St. Paul, Minnesota instead. But I very much appreciate the accommodation so that I could join by Zoom and participate in this very important forum. My name is Lisa Williams. My first experience with Iowa City was when I moved here in 4th grade. I attended Horseman and Southeast Junior High before we moved again for high school. I went to college out east at Smith College, And when I was 19 years old at Smith, I enlisted in the United States Army Reserves. After graduating from Smith, I came back to Iowa City for my second experience, and I attended law school at the University of Iowa. I wasn't quite ready to stay in Iowa City then, and so my now husband, we weren't married back then, but Jason and I moved to Seattle for several years. In 2007, my Army Reserve unit was mobilized, and I spent a year on active duty. So I'm a proud veteran of the United States Army, and I discharged after 10 total years of service in the reserves. We moved back to Iowa in 2010 and made it to Iowa City in 2012, and that's where we've been living ever since. I'm currently an assistant United States attorney with the Department of Justice, where I prosecute violent crime. And it's really that work that led me to run for the school board 4 years ago. Seeing the transformational power of education and what happens to kids when they don't have access to it really instilled in me a desire to continue my public service and serve on the school board. My husband Jason teaches high school at City High, or teaches world history at City High School. We've got two daughters now, 3rd and 5th grade. They go to Penn Elementary. And so it would be an honor to continue serving you all in this community for another term on the school board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. We will now proceed to our questions. We'll be rotating the speaking order for the candidates. Members of the audience, I'll remind you, are invited to put questions on note cards provided by the League and DPO members. We'll start with questions from the DPO and the League. Each has submitted one question for you to begin the evening. Recall that you have 1 minute to respond to each question. So some of you have made some comments related to this question, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it so that you can highlight what's most important to you. The question is this. We're going to begin with you, Mr. Broekemeier, and then we'll go down the line. What inspired you to run for this school board, and what sets you apart from other candidates?
Thank you for the question. So I also have a young boy who will be starting school here in the not too distant future. And ultimately, I just want to get involved with the school district as much as I can and do what I can to try to relieve some of the pressure on the teachers. One thing I've heard from a lot of different teachers and even student teaching over here within the community school district is very bloated class sizes and teacher burnout. And so I'm hoping to do everything I can to try to allocate funding back towards the teachers and that we can both hire and retain high-level teachers for the school district and hopefully reduce class size as well. By doing this, I believe we can provide a equitable future for all of our students and any student who is in fear of falling behind would get the attention they need from a teacher who isn't overtasked. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Decker.
As I mentioned in my opening remarks, I've been toying with the idea of running for school board for several years. And it got pushed to the forefront in my mind. And when I was talking with a friend of mine, he encouraged me to run, and here I am. I think that all people, no matter how they identify themselves, have the ability to learn, advance, and succeed in our society. Given the tools and encouragement that is needed, and to get back to basics of education and not pushing social agendas on our kids. We need to give them what they need to succeed.
Thank you. Mr. Eastham.
I think the person that inspired me the most to run for the school board was Latasha Deloach, who was a board member a few years ago. She served a couple of years, I think, and her expertise was in analyzing proficiency ratios among different groups in the community, in the district. She was very good at it, and I learned a lot from her. And when she left the board, it seemed to me that we could try to run and continue her work which I think I have devoted myself to. I think what sets me apart on the board is that I'm familiar with labor organizations, so I think we have a very good relationship with the Iowa City Education Association, which I'm looking forward to continuing, and I believe that served the students in this district very well in terms of providing good compensation for teachers and good working conditions for teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lingo.
Thank you. I'll start with skills. First off, I've taught for 6 years. 3 years of social studies is the way I started, and I taught for 3 years of math. I have degrees in elementary, middle level, and secondary education, and a PhD in education policy studies. I use data-driven research on post-secondary education to make recommendations across the state. My reason why I am running for school board is all to do with vouchers, inequity. Because when you get into the research surrounding vouchers, what they do is undermine equity within schools. From a personal standpoint, I have 2 aunts that suffer from severe cognitive delays. Without balance within the schools, they are the ones that take the brunt and the hurt of the voucher systems. They're done with schools, but there are students like them within the district, and they matter. And if we don't get the vouchers figured out, they're in trouble along with a lot of other students.
Thank you. Ms. Williams.
Thanks. Great question. I answered a little bit of it in my opening statement, but what inspired me to run is the transformational power of education, and that I want to be a part of making sure that every student in our district has the opportunity to succeed. What sets me apart from the other candidates is I think that I nearly have a 360-degree view on our educational system. I'm a product of the Iowa City Community School Districts. I attended these schools. My husband is a teacher. He's in the schools. I'm a mother of 2 young girls that are going through the schools. And I also coach mock trial at City High. And so I work with high school students on a regular daily basis. And so I think it's these different perspectives that allow me as a board member to see the big picture and to make decisions that are based on the best interest of our students in the district. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Abram.
I'm inspired to run for school board because public education is that important. It is a cornerstone of our society. Having a strong public education is so important for us all. And I think what sets me apart from the other candidates is my perspective as someone who has worked in Iowa City School District for 38 years as a special education teacher and as an administrator, and also I was a parent. And so I think those experiences give me a unique perspective to bring to the board table.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, you'll be first on this question.
Okay.
In what ways does your candidacy for school board promote what's best for all children and youth?
I think I've kind of already answered this in previous remarks, but I work with people with mental disabilities. I've worked with troubled youth throughout my life. And I think that everybody, as I've stated before, has the ability to learn and advance. And if we keep putting labels on people and targeting this group or that group and not education and the basic fundamentals of education, we're failing everybody. We have to get back to the basics. Like Micah had mentioned earlier, we need to focus on shop class. We need to focus on other tech trades and other things instead of trying to push social engineering on our children through education. And if that doesn't change, then the voucher system is a good choice for people to move on.
Thank you. Mr. Eastham.
I think I have the ability to recognize what is the actual case of the district's approach to education, and to work on things that need to be improved and to promote things that are working well. I think that this district does a very good job of promoting basic academic areas. I don't think we indoctrinate students, and I don't think we have teachers that are interested in anything but the well-being and educational learning of their students. I do believe that that I have been able in the last 4 years to really focus on doing the best thing we can do for all students in the district, students of color, LGBTQ students, special education students, all students. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lingo.
Thank you. First of all, it's just having an understanding and talking to people, being out there as much as possible to get an earful. And that's part of this. When people approach me and they're like, "Why are you doing this, Mitch?" I would never do this in my life. I'm like, it's because of the emails that I'll get. It makes me feel loved. No, but it really is just being out there and finding out what people believe is going on, getting their honest opinion of how the district is going, and then starting from there. And a lot of this is going back and taking in what they said and then look at the literature. If someone is saying that the policy is this way and the district says it's that way, where does the literature take you to? And that's kind of my background, and that's, when you come from a research angle, that's where I go to. And you know what? Sometimes the community could be right, sometimes the parents could be right, sometimes the districts could be right, sometimes it's in the middle.
Thank you. Ms. Williams.
So one of my favorite district mottos is that we're every student, every day. And I believe that my candidacy promotes what's best for all students in the district, because I am 100% on board with every student, every day. That includes students that come from different backgrounds, students who identify as members of the LGBTQIA community, students who come from overseas and have different cultures and different religious beliefs. Because I think that the purpose of public education is to meet every student where they are, touch their lives in a positive way, and give them the tools that they need to learn. And so I would continue that if reelected to the board, and promote every student every day.
Thank you. Ms. Abraham.
My candidacy supports all students in that I think we always need to work hard to be all in for all kids, which is another motto of the school district. And I think we need to continue to provide equity and access to all these students, all 14,000 plus of our students. How do we do that? I think the High Reliability Schools initiative that we're working on is really trying to provide a strong, rigorous curriculum for all students. And I think we need to remember, in addition to that, we need to look at individual differences and what supports and services we need to provide, be it transportation, be it mental health supports, nutrition, health services, whatever else we need to provide so that all kids can access a high-quality education.
Thank you. And Mr. Broekemeier.
Thank you. Well, I was going to say being a veteran was unique, but that's clearly not the case with this panel here. But all jokes aside, as a Marine veteran, for those that don't know, the Marines are typically known to, when it comes to funding, don't get the most. And we have to make do with what we have from the Navy. And this is something that, with a school district that, unfortunately, it's trending very close to insolvency right now. And knowing where to make some difficult cuts, understanding that we need to do what we can with what we have, so as not to disrupt the learning process that we've established here. That's something I hope to bring to the table. And just having that unique perspective of essentially knowing we have limited resources and working with that. Additionally, I've worked blue collar my whole life, and I absolutely understand the importance of skilled labor in the workforce, and that's something I want to encourage all students to pursue if that is their goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eastham, you'll be first on this question. I have a couple of questions that are related, so I'm going to pull them together, related to retaining teachers. So Iowa is facing a teacher shortage. As a school board member, how would you work to retain and recruit quality teachers for the district?
Thank you, Jean. One very effective strategy is to have a school district that teachers want to come to teach. I think we have established that, and we are maintaining that. Also, we have, over the last 3 or 4 years, developed a Grow Your Own program whereby high school students are encouraged to make a career choice or a career interest, anyway, to becoming teachers. And we work with those students to get them through their teacher education period in their lives, and then offer them and tell them, as when they start this program, that they'll have a teaching opportunity here in this district if they so choose that. And that's been quite effective, remarkably effective in my view. So there are a number of things we can do. We also need to look at recruiting teachers who want to come here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lingo.
Yeah, when you thank you for the question, whoever gave that out in the audience. When you look at teacher retention, the number one reason teachers attribute for leaving the profession is their administrator. It's not pay, it's not work, it is their administrator. So if we as a district start to notice an administrator continues to bleed teachers out of the building, that is definitely an issue to look into right away. And then jumping on to recruitment, we have the University of Iowa that right here, they just had their largest class of teachers, I think, since forever or maybe history, coming out of the university. What I would highly suggest to the district is to, start to figure out which student teachers are excelling within the classroom and start recruiting at that point to get them into the district to complete their total student teaching and stay.
Thank you. And Ms. Williams.
Thanks. I wouldn't change a lot of what we're currently doing, because I am proud that Iowa City is a destination district for teachers. Teachers want to come here, and we don't see the problems with recruiting and retaining that many of the surrounding districts do. And we have success here because of a few core components. First of all is our strong relationship with the teachers union. When Chapter 20 was gutted, we could have walked away from the table and refused to negotiate over almost nearly every provision of their contract, but we chose not to do that. We see our teachers as partners in our district, and we treat them with respect, and we give them a voice at the table, and it's essential that we continue to do that. And then Charlie mentioned the Grow Your Own program, which has a component of identifying students who want to teach, but also I'm really proud of our pathway for our para-educators and our staff to get to a certified teaching position. So I would continue to build and strengthen those programs.
Thank you. Ms. Abraham.
I think that supporting staff is a very important thing that we need to do. First and foremost is we need to continue to negotiate contracts in good faith and continue our relationship with ICEA. That they're crucial people to have at the table, regardless of what we're talking about. We need their input. I think we need to continue to offer competitive wages and salaries and benefits packages to all of our staff. That's important to do. We need to involve staff in decision-making that's relevant to them. It doesn't make any sense to make a lot of decisions without involving the people who it's going to impact the most. We need to honor their work. The work that our staff do in this district is phenomenal, and we need to honor that and remember that people are working hard, doing the best they can for our students. We need to not add extra things to their plate if we can do that. Thank you. I won't talk about grow your own.
Thank you. Mr. Broekemeier.
Well, I touched on it a little bit in my introduction, but ultimately one of my dream goals for the district is to have smaller class sizes. This means hiring more teachers and finding what we can do to cut budgets in other areas. And under no circumstance do I believe that we should be examining teachers when it comes to budget cuts. Teachers are the talent for our schools. The last board's quarter financial report says that there's a system of aggressive early retirement in place to try to get rid of some of the older teachers or to incentivize leaving. I don't think we need to be incentivizing teachers to leave. I think we need to focus more on what we can do to keep them here. Older teachers to train the new teachers, and new teachers that enjoy what they do and aren't getting burned out. And one more thing onto that note is making substituting within this district less daunting. With smaller class sizes, this is something that we can help relieve the burden on these teachers that they already face. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Decker.
Even prior to me running, I've been talking with people, including teachers, over the last several years, but especially during COVID. And some of the teachers that I talked with don't live in this district, but they teach in this district because they don't like the policies and they don't like the schools being run by the unions. The unions have a place for education and hiring and retaining teachers, but not in setting policy, which they did during COVID. And if we're going to keep teachers in this school district, we need to address that all teachers don't necessarily like the policies that are being done, and we just need to focus on the kids and the teachers and not the other things.
Thank you. Mr. Lingo, you'll be first for this next question. In light of the recent legislation, we have seen, I'm combining several questions, so I'm doing this on the fly. In light of the recent legislation, we've seen some changes related to policies involving the challenging of books. So how would you uphold or change the district's policy related to challenging books? And does it make a difference to you whether the book is in the curriculum or in the library?
Okay. Glad. So thank you for the question and whoever asked it. I actually talked to the superintendent yesterday or the day before. Well, yesterday because of when that came out. And from my understanding, the current policy and process is being curated by a team of teacher librarians, teachers, and administrators. None of these people want to be a part of this. None of them do. You ask them, this is the last thing. So please give them grace within the community. And if this is not done, the first thing is a slap on the wrist to the teacher, librarian, administrator. The second step is them having to go in front of the Board of Educational Examiners and probably be stripped of their teacher license, administrator license, or license to be a librarian. I disagree with the policy, or not the district's policy, I disagree with the state's law, but, it sounds like the way that the district is handling it is the best to handle a bad situation. What I would say, well, I'll stop.
Ms. Williams.
So the policy that we have implemented in ICCSD to determine which books to remove from the libraries, which I think is what the question's asking, is relying on our subject matter experts to make the decision of whether a book is compliant with the law. The superintendent isn't just yanking 500 books off the shelf like we saw in Urbandale. We're not using AI like I think Mason City was. We're going out to our teacher librarians, our librarian curriculum coordinators, and relying on their expertise and guidance in what needs to come off our shelves. And I would continue to rely on the experts to guide us through this process. With respect to the library versus the curriculum, I do believe that there is a difference, and that's because there's a different law about teaching divisive concepts that applies to our curriculum classes that doesn't exist in the library for what books we can and can't have. So there are some nuances there that we also have to navigate.
Thank you. Ms. Abraham.
So I know, well, I'm sort of, horrified, I guess is probably the word, by some of the books that are being removed from our school libraries. When you look at the list, they don't all make sense to me, but I know we need to comply with the law. That is crucial. We have to do that. I don't want anybody to lose their license over this. And I think our librarians, our teacher librarians, and our administrators are trying to make the best decisions they can on how to do this. I don't like the legislation. I think it's vague. We didn't get any direction on how to implement it. And so it makes it very hard to feel like we're doing what we are supposed to be doing, because we don't know what that is. So I hope we can get through the vetting process that the librarians are doing now. And just as a side note, all our public libraries do allow kids to check out books with their student IDs.
Thank you. Mr. Broekemeier.
Thank you. As Ms. Abrams said, it's I saw the list of the books that came across from that email from the superintendent, and there were definitely some head scratchers involved. And that's one thing that, well, ultimately it's not a very flashy answer, but we got to follow the law. And when the law is vague, we have to do whatever we can to try to interpret that in the best way possible. And when in doubt, go to the legislators. And this is something that, again, it's not very flashy, but if we want to change legislation, we have to go through them. And as a school board member, I promise to uphold the law. And again, when in doubt, go through the proper chains, even if they're vague. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Decker.
Movies, television shows, music all have a rating scale on what's appropriate for children, what's appropriate for adults, and what's appropriate for teenagers. Books in our libraries should be on the same scale. I too looked at the list, and there was some head scratchers on there that I wasn't sure about, like The Color Purple, for example. But we do have to keep the books in our libraries age appropriate for our children. And if people have a problem with what's on the list, the legislation, they can go to their state house and petition and get the law changed or challenge a book. But apart from that, that's all we can do.
Thank you. Mr. Eastham.
I personally am totally opposed to this approach the legislature is taking on limiting the education of students in our district by denying them access to information and books. However, as people have said, we do have in this legislation, we have a threat to the continuation of the ability to be a teacher librarian by the legislation, because the state's threatening to remove licensure from teacher librarians and other staff if they don't follow a law which is impossible to understand. So we'll have to see how this turns out, turning around January 1st, when parts of the law that are not in effect now do come into effect. I think the board needs to support the process we're in. And we also need to continue to advocate with legislatures to make changes in the law, which legislatures may be willing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, you'll be the first respondent to the next question. And I'm combining, again, several questions, so I'll do my best to get the sentiment across. How will you, as a board member, advocate for increased parent and community involvement in the education system?
Sure. I think that, first of all, increased parent and community involvement in the education system is a great thing. I think the more people we have involved in our schools seeing the great work that we're doing and contributing to those efforts, the more our kids are going to benefit from that. This past last 2 years, we've seen a lot of projects get off the ground with community involvement at Northwest Junior High, Southeast Junior High, and some of our other schools. And we've done that by creating a specific position in the administrative team of someone who serves as a liaison for community groups who want to be involved in our schools. I want to continue to support that program. And then I also want to make sure that we're empowering our principals to invite parents into our buildings. My kids go to Penn. Our principal there has a great, lots of ways to get parents in, but one that I really like is he invites lunchroom volunteers in to help with the lunchtime switchovers with the kids. And so I think continuing and growing those programs to get parents in and involved is a great way to build those partnerships.
Thank you, Ms. Abraham.
Parent involvement is so important in our schools, and it's something I worked on that I really tried to advocate for as an administrator at West High School. I think one step we've taken is we've made translation of all our documents and phone calls and those things into other languages is a lot easier, and so at least people can understand what we're sending them and what our phone calls are about, because that hasn't always been the case. As Lisa mentioned, we have the liaison for the community groups. That's important. And I think we can do more outreach to where the parents are. You know, it doesn't always work to come to school between 8 and 4 for a lot of people. Parent-teacher conferences may be overwhelming to try to come to. So I think we need to think about other ways that meet people where they're at and give them an opportunity to interact with school staff. I remember going over to Pheasant Ridge neighborhood centers and meeting parents over there, and so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Broekemeier.
Thank you. I'll jump off with parent-teacher conferences there, and I think that's something that I want to see expanded. I want to see more time allocated for that. Maybe instead of parent-teacher conference day, we have week, or we have multiple different outlets for the parents to make up with the teachers and discuss with them. I was talking to a teacher this last week, and she had told me that even with half the parents showing up, she has about 5 minutes of time to talk to each parent. That's about as much time as allocated within the time. Again, that's just something that we need to give more time for the teachers, whether that's maybe on a school out day or whatever it may be. Allow for these parents, like Ms. Abrams said, to make it less intimidating for these teachers. And one last detail is disclosing all details of fights or disciplinary issues within schools. I didn't know this was an issue until I started knocking on doors, but hearing parents say that the school didn't tell them their kid got in a fight, their kid had to tell them they got in a fight when they got home. And again, I just think that's something that we need to continue to disclose with parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Decker.
The last comment right there, I've also heard that as I've been canvassing and talking to people. But yes, parent involvement in our schools is key to our children's education and the socialization that goes on as the community as a whole. Last year, I signed up and went to the fun day at the end of the school year last year to be in what I thought was on the dunk tank. But when I got there, I was just a chaos coordinator. I was kind of bummed. But yes, we got to think outside the box on ways to get parents involved more in our education, more in social events, have more opportunities for social events like the one I participated in. I've also gone on field trips with my children out to Camp Park and other things. Those opportunities have to be increased.
Mr. Eastham.
Parent involvement is certainly a critical factor in a district's overall effectiveness at education. We have adopted, as I think Molly mentioned a minute ago, we've adopted what's called a high reliability schools framework, which has a number of factors that call for schools to become excellent in their educational capabilities. One of those factors is that the principal in each school, in each building in the district, is responsible now for implementing a formal process for parents to keep the staff informed about issues that are of concern to parents in that particular school. And as we implement that process, I think our communication through parents will greatly improve. So I'm looking forward to that. I also would like to thank you.
Mr. Lingo.
Okay, I didn't know if I had to get announced first or. Oh. Anyway, increase in parent involvement. As it's been echoed already, we all know that parent involvement is central to bringing students up and academic outcomes. Some of the thoughts that come to mind are first, relying on social media a little bit more to get the information out as a district, using the buildings, letting the buildings have control over their own social media to roll out events, to let parents know, and guardians and grandparents, because I know at least my mother-in-law follows her grandkids' school. So, because it's not just parents, and I would like to echo, Molly brought it up, and I believe it was echoed multiple times before, is just trying to find out other times during the week and the evenings when to have these events. Not everybody works a 9 to 5. And finally, providing greater access with translators and bringing those in on, trying to find ways to fund those at the events to help parents navigate.
Thank you. Ms. Abraham, you will be the first respondent. I'm combining several questions from the audience here. So, how do you plan to ensure accountability within the school district administration to Iowa City Community School District Board policies, guiding philosophies, code of ethics, and performance standards for school administrators?
I was an administrator for many years, and there were a lot of measures of accountability. Probably the most right there was your staff, and your staff knows if you're doing what you need to be doing to support the school, to run the school appropriately, if you're following the ICCSD board policies and guidance, and so that's an important piece that we need to talk to staff and see what's happening. As far I'm trying to, that was a long question. I think the accountability measure, it's more part of the evaluation system that administrators, when they're evaluated, they look at those pieces, and the superintendent should be aware of what's happening. So there are a lot of ways that accountability for administrators is happening.
Thank you. Mr. Broekemeier.
Thank you. Ultimately, small unit leadership, and that's byproduct of some of my time in the U.S. Marine Corps. But everything from ethics violations to standards not being upheld. This is something that we don't need to place directly on the shoulders of the principal or any other administrators in particular. However, they can hear from the advisors, they can hear from the paras, the teachers themselves, whether we have a reporting system for these kind of things. I think that's something that we could definitely explore. But yeah, ultimately, like I said, the small unit leadership portion, going down and finding and listening to whether it be complaints or praises of leaders within the schools and bringing that up to the administration. This is how I plan to administer some oversight and try to hear all voices when analyzing these policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Decker.
Can you repeat the question
I can.
again?
It's long.
It was long.
And every version of it was long. Okay. How do you plan to ensure accountability within the school district administration to Iowa City Community School District Board policies, guiding philosophies, codes of ethics, and performance standards for school administrators?
In order to have the best possible outcome at the end of the, right now, 13 years, if you count preschool, 14 years that our kids are in the school system. It's outcome-based, and not just what they're learning on state tests, but are they getting cognitive thought training? How can they process information? Can they take two opposing viewpoints and review them and analyze them and come up with their own decision? That is what we need to do. We also need to hold our administrators accountable. During COVID, I had a son that was a senior who slipped because his parents weren't able to be at home and keep him on task. I have kindergartners at the time who got behind on their speech because people were wearing masks, and part of learning is mouth movement. So our kids lost education time and level during this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eastham.
One of the most numbing things that school board members have happened to them when they get on the board is that they discover they only have one employee in the district. That's the superintendent. Nobody has the ability to talk to a principal on my own. I can't do that. I can't go out and talk to a principal, say, I want you to do this. It's not what a school board member can do. So all of the accountability measures flow through the superintendent. That's not necessarily an unfavorable thing, because we have twice monthly meetings, one-on-one meetings with the superintendent, where we have the ability to talk about specific things that we're concerned about, maybe with an administrator and accountability, some incident. So we can push the superintendent's responsibility towards maintaining accountability through our relationship with the superintendent, and that's the proper thing to do.
Thank you. Mr. Lingo.
I'll be clear and honest. First, I would need to research and find out more about the policies and procedures surrounding how to even access evaluations of the principals and administrators, because there is plenty of overlapping concerns about privacy. So that's where I would start, is to research it before I really give a strong opinion on the matter. But I'd like to echo Charlie's point that was just made, that ultimately the school board acts as a board of directors that advises the superintendent and sets the tone for the district. But if there is a principal that people keep coming to you over and over again that is setting the tone wrong, it's time to have a conversation with that principal or with the superintendent.
Thank you. Ms. Williams.
So one of the things that the board has done in the past year, 2 years, is we've worked really hard to develop a strategic plan that I am very proud of. And that strategic plan, if anybody is interested, I would really encourage you to just Google ICCSD strategic plan. It'll take you right to our page. It's a 5-year plan, and it lays out measurable goals in equity, proficiency and growth, as well as sub-subjects. And it also provides ways that we're going to hold the superintendent and the district accountable to meet those goals. We're going to look at, for example, high reliability school data and progress towards completion. We're looking at ISEP scores. We're looking at audit results when it comes to our financial health goals. We're looking at data from our student climate and culture survey. And so we have built in a number of accountability standards that rely on data that we as a board can use to measure whether or not we are on progress to meeting our strategic goals. And I would continue to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Broekemeier, you're first on this next question. I have a number of questions that are related to equity programs, so I'll try my best to represent the concerns that are expressed here. So what measures would you take to evaluate the effectiveness of equity programs and initiatives implemented by the Iowa City Community School District Administration? And along with that, consider the learning gap that is apparent between students of color in the school district.
All right. Thank you for the question. So I've got to go over and review a lot of what we have in place for our equity programs. Personally, I've always been a bigger fan of the word equality over equity, and that I don't believe success is always going to be determined by outcome, and that we need to provide opportunities equal to all students and prioritize that. And as far as any achievement gaps that we start seeing, this is, again, where I come back to these smaller class sizes and prioritizing teachers that are able to deal with these students on an individual level, that we're not letting anybody fall through the cracks, regardless of race, creed, or anything else. Definitely need to prioritize this, and again, just empower the teachers to make these decisions and to help the students in whatever needs they have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Decker.
We need to focus on equal opportunity, not equal outcomes. Whenever we focus on equal outcomes, nobody wins. We need to focus on treating everybody as humans, respecting everybody for their individualism, and not pushing social agendas. I don't like the word equity, social equity, education equity. It's a misnomer. I don't think half of the people, or probably 90% of the people in the school district, understand what that means. We need to just treat everybody with respect and let them live their life the way they want to live it, and search and seek out the help and assistance that they need to live their life the way they want to live, not go through the school system.
Thank you. Mr. Eastham.
As Director Williams mentioned, we have a strategic plan which we adopted recently, and which we worked very hard to put together with the superintendent, the staff, the ICEA, and I'm quite proud of that strategic plan. And that strategic plan definitely calls for us to decrease the proficiency gaps that exist between different groups of students in the district now. That, to me, is an admirable goal, and it's a necessary goal for us to maintain and pursue. The strategic plan not only calls for numerical increases or decreases in proficiency gaps between groups, but it also has a long set of measures that we will undertake and are undertaking to achieve the endpoints of the strategic plan. I think that we will be able to do this within the next very few years.
Thank you. Mr. Lingo.
So the first thing, one of the things that makes Iowa City really unique, Iowa City community schools, because there's other towns in this, and I can't forget them. But what makes it unique is part of our RAM modeling, weighted resource allocation model that helps with staffing to make sure that class sizes are reduced in lower income areas or lower schools with lower income students, or students from lower income backgrounds, and some of the way that we modeled or elementary bounds that filter up to our high school, and I'm very big in keeping that. But it's like Charlie said, that they have a strategic plan that has been developed, and to keep on going through that and seeing if it's having the results, and if it's not, to tweak it here and there and make sure that we are getting the outcomes we need and students deserve throughout this district.
Thank you. Ms. Williams.
Yeah, I think I'm going to refer to it as the opportunity gap, not the learning gap, but closing the opportunity gap amongst our kids of color is one of the most pressing issues facing the district. And we have to be focused on our equity work has to be focused on reducing that opportunity gap. With all due respect, we need to be looking for equal outcomes, because it just does not make sense that our Black students cannot learn math at the rate of their white peers. The reason that's happening is we have to do some soul searching and look at what type of structural barriers the district has in place that are preventing these kids from learning basic math. And then we have to change those systems, address those failures, and make it equitable so that every single child has the ability to graduate with core competencies under their belt.
Ms. Abraham.
Well, first, to evaluate the effect of equity programs, I think that we need to look at proficiency rates, and that's one of our goals. I think it's it's important to also look at culture and climate surveys and see what we're doing there to make everyone feel welcome, included, part of the school, because that's an important piece that you need in order to be ready to learn. So I think we need to look at that and try to work on improving some of that survey data to see what we can do there. How do we work on the learning gap between students of color? I think high reliability schools, I keep coming back to that, but I think the framework helps us provide opportunities for all 14,000 plus students in all the schools, and helps us set a way that everybody can have access to that education.
Thank you. It is 8:05. My instructions say it is time for our final question. I regret that I have many more questions on this side of the table, but I remind people in the audience that if you are interested in engaging with candidates after the forum, you are welcome to do that. I think they would be more than happy to visit with you. Again, very, very sorry the time has flown by. So the final question, and we will begin with Mr. Decker. No, sorry, I'm supposed to do the final questions a different way. I better follow the rules. So we'll start with Ms. Williams, and we'll come down the line. Okay? All right, here it is. What is one issue we have not discussed this evening that you think is important for the Iowa City Community School District? Ms. Williams.
Well, I can't believe I got my easy question because I have not had an opportunity to talk about my top priority, which is building on and eventually getting to universally accessible 4-year-old preschool for every single student in the district. When we talk about reducing the opportunity gap, in fact, what I believe is the best tool to do that is to make sure that we have a 4-year-old preschool experience that is universally accessible to every single student in our district. That is a full day experience with preschool and wraparound care that mimics the length of the school day. By getting kids access to early childhood education, we can really make a difference in how they're set up for kindergarten and then the rest of their school career. I'm proud of our pilot programs. We are now rolled out 4 pilot programs in the district where we're offering a full day preschool experience. And then we're working on partnering with our municipalities to provide that experience at no cost to our students who are eligible for free and reduced school lunch. This is what I believe is the best single program we could adopt.
Thank you. Ms. Abraham. Oh, excuse me, I'm coming down this way. Mr. Lingo.
Okay, thank you. Well, Lisa kind of took my first one, and I can't really, saying what she said would just be a repeat. So I'm going to go on to my second one, which is providing course offerings, especially at the secondary. That means 6th grade through, soon to mean 6th grade through 8th through 12th grade, that provide robust curriculum options to students, whether it is tech courses leading to apprenticeships or those top tier math and science courses that allow students to access the top tier universities. We are the school district that needs to provide this for all students, and we are here for all students. And yes, that is my other top priority.
Thank you. Mr. Eastham.
Thank you, Jane. Jean, I'm sorry. I agree with Lisa that I think from our top priority that we haven't talked about so far tonight is instituting a system of universal preschool education for all 4-year-olds in the school district, access to that at no cost to their parents when their parents are lower income. We have the data that says that doing that would make a huge difference in how kids learn math, especially as they get into kindergarten and their elementary years. We have an opportunity to do that in part because the generosity of taxpayers in the district who have provided funds to do building expansion for our junior high schools so that we can add classrooms for kids in the 6th grade who are coming into those schools now because we're combining 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. That leaves us with a lot of elementary school buildings that we can use for preschool education.
Thank you.
In the last several years, I've worked with a lot of people from Africa and Asia. I've talked with a lot of people from Hispanic backgrounds, European backgrounds, and one of the things that is unique to America is labels, hyphenated Americans. We have to get away from categorizing people, targeting them, and victimizing them. That is the downfall of this society. You don't hear people saying, I'm a African Brit or I'm an African French. We only hear that in America. Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, LGBTQ Americans. We have to stop labeling people. We have to learn to live with each other, respect each other, and live and let live, and stop all of this equity crap. Okay, I'm done.
Mr. Broekemeier.
Thank you. Mitch took my thunder a little bit there talking about the programs, but I think it's a great way to talk, segue into budget. And honestly, I'm surprised we didn't have any real questions come up about budget.
We did. It just didn't come.
Well, as I'd mentioned earlier, just some of the data that we have available from the school boards shows that we're trending towards insolvency right now, including some things like we have $41 million of COVID money that's going to dry out by 24, and yet it doesn't seem that we're even budgeting for what we're going to do after that goes away. One big issue I see with this is we're also hemorrhaging students to open enrollment in different school districts. We're losing more than we're bringing in. I think we need to absolutely focus on why we're losing these students and what we can do, talking to these parents, bringing the students back into the fold and helping with that. Ultimately, it just comes down to the fact that if we're broke, we can't educate students, and I sure don't hope or don't want the taxpayers to have to foot the bill for financial mismanagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Abraham.
So the preschool, I'm very much behind that issue, and also the more career type offerings at the high school. I appreciate both those things that were offered. One issue that I think has kind of gone under the radar is our para-educators and the lack of para-educators, special education para and general ed paras. We have a hard time hiring them, and it presumably is because we can't pay them enough. We do still have the single health insurance for them, but we really need to figure out how to recruit and maintain more paraeducators. They are such an important part of our workforce. Anybody who's been in a school knows that the paraeducators do a lot of the frontline work, and we need to have quality people that are able to do that. So I'm hopeful we can figure out some way to recruit and maintain more paraeducators.
Thank you. Each candidate will now have 2 minutes to make a closing statement, and we will begin with Mr. Decker.
One of the things that I experience personally in my life is mental health. That has to be addressed in our education system. I work in the field. I have children with severe ADHD and other impulse control issues that I'm constantly dealing with. I live the struggle every day. Getting my kids to school on time, leaving work to get them from school and get them home, and just dealing with life, balancing work and home, trying to make our ends meet at home, and we really need to look at the mental health aspect of what's going on with how our kids are being educated, what's going on, and getting them the help that they need through whether therapy or psychiatry or more socialization, whatever it happens to be. And we also just need to get back to the basics. Reading, writing, arithmetic, mechanical, engineering, shop classes, home ec, the stuff that makes people people. Humanities classes, they're good and all, but they don't give you an education. There's nothing that can come really from that as far as I'm concerned, except a degree that you can't get a job with. Trade schools, tech schools are options. We need to focus on the future and get our kids ready for the real world. Life isn't fair. We got to stop thinking that it is.
Thank you. Mr. Eastham.
I was just thinking about our kids. I didn't mention this in the opening statement, but we have 3 kids that have gone through the Iowa City Community School District to Longfellow, Southeast, and City High. One of them now is a intensive care nurse. One of them has her own music cello studio and has been in music education since he was in the 4th grade, actually. And then one has his own painting business and lives in Iowa City. He's a small business person. All of our kids have talked about, in one way or another, about what they learned when they went to school here. In part, they learned some practical things. In part, they learned some things that they should not have learned or not engaged in anyway. And in part, they learned how to be the persons they are today. Through a lot of that occurred through the relationships with teachers that they engaged with when they were in school. Many of those teachers were in art, in social studies, and some in math, and some in other areas too. We've heard over and over again, since I've been on the school board, that the primary thing that makes a good student is a good teacher. We have a lot of really, really good teachers in this district. And we will do our best to continue to support them and all the teachers in the district as we go forward here. I think one of the things that I hope that I can bring to the board if I'm reelected is a continuation upon looking at the positive in our educational programs and our and instructional programs here. And I think we have a bright future ahead of us. Thank you.
Mr. Lingo.
Well, thank you to the timekeeper and the moderator, camera person, and everybody out here today and everybody listening at home. Your choice over the next few weeks, 3 weeks, is about values. Coralville, Hills, Iowa City, North Liberty, University Heights, and the corridor has traditional values. We have a tradition of values that respects our LGBTQIA communities and our BIPOC communities. Have the district and community always gotten it right? No. But at least we're going to keep on trying, even if the state makes laws that make it hard to do it. Overall, though, public schools are where the rubber meets the road when aligning one's values with one's actions surrounding their children. I have a 4-year-old and understand the scarcity and fear surrounding vouchers coming in to parents that they make the decisions. I hear it at the pool, at the farmer's market, at the library, at the playground. You get the picture. I go to a lot of places to entertain children. But, I choose public schools because I value my children being in classrooms with students from backgrounds of different religions, economic situations, cognitive and physical abilities, social backgrounds, racial ethnic differences. The students may be LGBTQIA or come from families that have LGBTQIA parents. Public schools are where students live, learn, work, act, play in a pluralistic society. ICCSD has done this, I believe, for a while now. I know this because when I was going to school at the University of Northern Iowa, I was always shocked at how well-rounded, grounded, and empathetic ICCSD graduates were at college. It was craziness. But after living in this area for 9 years, I realized that it is the community buy-in of the district, of the families of every background, that made these college peers without equal. But this only exists when we as parents and guardians and community members of all backgrounds do not give in to fear, go to public school.
Thank you. Ms. Williams.
So I went and I bought a Ray Gun t-shirt the other day that says ICCSD, the best district in the universe. And I wear it around town proudly because I truly believe that we are the best at what we do here in Iowa City. That doesn't mean we don't have room to grow. And that doesn't mean that we have issues that we need to address and improve on. But toe for toe with every district in Iowa, we're doing amazing things. We've heard some fear mongering and some buzzwords going on tonight. We just heard earlier that we're hemorrhaging kids to open enrollment, which is exactly false. I was on the phone with the superintendent today, and we actually, for the first time, have a positive balance on our open enrollment. I believe it's 18 students that we have coming to Iowa City as opposed to leaving. And that's because we're doing things right. We're treating our students with respect. We're wrapping them in love. We're meeting them where they are, whether they be BIPOC students, LGBTQIA students, students who need social emotional supports from the schools. We take care of every single student here. And I've been really proud to be a part of that for the past 4 years. And I can promise this community that if you reelect me, I'm going to continue that commitment to caring and wrapping our kids in love, meeting every single one of them where they are, and supporting them for their authentic selves. It is an honor and a privilege to oversee the best district in the universe. And I really hope that I get the opportunity to do it for another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Abraham.
Thank you, Lisa. That was very, I agree. We are the best in the universe. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and DPO for hosting this forum. I hope this has given everyone a chance to hear a little bit more about the candidates. I feel that my years of experience as a teacher, an administrator, and a parent give me a good perspective to offer to the school board. As I've said before, public education is the cornerstone of our society. Public schools teach our children to learn right beside other children who are different race, religion, color, SES, identities. And why is that important? Because when they grow up as adults, they are able to work with all kinds of people. They are able to respect others that have a different opinion than they might. They might have empathy for others. They're all very important things. And so public education is so important to me. I worked in public education my entire professional career, and I hope I get to continue that by being elected again to the school board so I can keep supporting and advocating for ICCSD public education. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Broekemeier.
Hey there. That was a lot of fun. Thanks, guys, for being here. I think my kid as well. I don't know where he scattered off to, but I'm glad he let us chat for a little bit here without some screeching. Ultimately, I think it comes down to focusing on supporting the teachers and doing all we can. And if elected to the school board, that's where I'm going to draw my focus. When it comes to issues of budgetary concerns, the teachers don't need to be factored into that with regards to cuts. If we can allocate money towards them, especially hiring more teachers, that will be a priority of mine. the issue of paras was brought up and how we don't have enough paras. I think that's something that's incredibly important, and that's also something I'd like to work on. I've been in some of the schools here myself, and I've seen just what those men and women have to go through and what they selfishly do for our students, and it's truly an amazing thing. A teacher told me the other day over at Southeast Junior High that it seems that Iowa City and Des Moines are playing a game of tug of war with our students and the students of the rope, and it just breaks my heart to hear that. And I really, as a lot of us have said here, really need to get back to teaching the basics of the schools, but that also means uplifting all students, regardless of where they come from, regardless of where they stand on their identity spectrum. We do need to help students and make sure that equal opportunity is given to all. Thank you very much, and I appreciate you guys. Feel free to chat with me afterwards. I'll stick around for a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'd like to remind you that the views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates and that sponsorship of the forum is not an endorsement of any candidate. Remember to visit vote411.org for more election information. This election will be held on November 7th. Please vote at your polling place or beginning today at the auditor's office or at one of the satellite voting stations. Thank you to the candidates and to the Iowa City Cable TV staff. The recording of this forum will be available on the Facebook page of the League of Women Voters of Johnson County, on the DPO website, and on the website of the League of Women Voters of Johnson County at lwvjc.org. It will also be available on Iowa City Cable Channel 4, Coral Vision TV, and the North Liberty Television channel. Check their websites for program schedules. Thank you all for being here this evening. Thanks again to our candidates. Be sure to vote.